Yes, you can.
Okay, I just would add that just in the interest of equity, I certainly understand about budgetary concerns and of course not all sidewalks in town can be plowed, but 62 is hardly a cul-de-sac, and it's an extremely busy road, and it seems to me that if anything is plowed outside of the center of town, which has the priority, but if anything is plowed, then it seems that it shouldn't, that 28 and 62 should be high priorities, and that if any of 62 is plowed, then it seems to me that the whole thing should be.
I don't think any of us would disagree that we'd love to see it plowed. I think we all agree, but there is constraints financially that I think limit us from being able to achieve that objective.
Right. And in that case, I guess I would rather have seen none of it plowed rather than part of it and not the rest.
It's a fair comment, yes.
Yes, Sean.
I agree with Mr. O'Leary in terms of financial ability to plow all the sidewalks in town. Snow and ice budget, we've expended over $600,000 this year. The question I have, why in this most recent storm was it plowed 62 down to Swan Pond? I guess that's an answer that I had a question of about a week ago, still has gone unanswered. Because I agree with the chair. If we went down to Swan Pond, I agree with this woman here, if we went down to Swan Pond, I don't think it would have taken much more to complete Elm Street down to the town line. So I don't know if you have an answer to that, Mr. Valiakonis, this evening, but that's something.
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to, I can have the Public Works Director address that question. I don't have it this evening.
It was a question that I had last week.
Right.
Because I think that's a legitimate issue for the folks that live on that side of Elm Street as to why was it stopped at Swan Pond and not completed. I'm sure it's probably a distance of less than a half mile from that point to the town line. So I don't know why in this downtime it could not have been completed, given the nature of that road. But we also have to look at, and I agree with Mr. O'Leary, the financial aspect of it. We have to set our priorities. We have probably 12 police officers in town sitting here this evening wondering what we're going to do in terms of how we're going to fund the full Quinn mill. And public safety comes first before we start plowing all the sidewalks in town. But I think that's a legitimate question for the folks that live down on that side of Elm Street. Why couldn't it be completed? And that's the answer they deserve to that question.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Next item on our agenda is to sign the town administrator's contract.
Read the motion?
Uh,
Or did we already?
We moved to, do we need, we don't need another motion, do we, Greg?
We can.
Won't hurt anything, I guess.
We're going to sign it effective, we're going to sign it today.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Prisco.
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the employment agreement between the Town of North Reading and the Town Administrator effective July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2014.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Prisco, second by Mr. O'Leary. Do we hear any discussion?
The only discussion is a follow-up to what was said last week. I appreciate Town Administrator stepping up and accepting the concessions in his contract, showing a leadership role. Hopefully that the rest of our municipal unions in town will follow suit and understand the financial difficulties that we're having and that we face, and that they also will do the same as you have in terms of the concessions that you gave in your contract concerning buybacks and sick leave and the like. And once again, thank you.
Well, thank you. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Who has the original?
I have it right here, and this is in permanent ink, too. I'm not even signing it in,
Some of them you don't have to sign. That one you don't have to sign.
member.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yep.
I thought that was for the hair club. I'm sorry.
For the which one?
The hair club?
That's right, you don't have to sign.
That's
I
right.
do.
That's fine.
That's right, I don't need that.
start the town administrator's
I do.
report?
In your file, it's the yellow copy that would have been sent out later this afternoon, the town administrator's update. And start with snow, because we've been talking about snow for a while. Our costs are up in excess of $650,000, as the board had mentioned. You know that at the last meeting, there were efforts that have been undertaken to clear the roofs at municipal buildings and school buildings. As a result of that, our insurance company is going to give us a credit of 2% on our insurance policy. Not insignificant. The total cost for shoveling the snow off the roofs is about $18,000. So we'll see a 2% credit on our property and liability insurance policy, because our risk has obviously dropped. I did receive a report from the water department that the water bills that typically are mailed in mid-February are being delayed. It's snow-related. The reason why they're delayed is because of the fact that the water department personnel cannot easily get to and from the water meters. But that is being addressed, and I would expect that the bills will be sent out in early March.
I actually saw someone, I think it was one of our guys, using snowshoes.
That's right.
Watching it up Winter Street with snowshoes going into people's yards reading the
They
meeting.
would absolutely need that in my
Yeah.
area.
Yep, it's absolutely true. As someone who's tried to walk around my property with a ladder, I can tell you snowshoes are something you need. The last question that the board had raised a few weeks ago was the plowing of Route 28 and the random pattern where one of the lanes had been restricted. There was a letter that was received from the District Highway Director of Mass Department of Transportation. You have a copy of it in your packet, but it summarizes that Mass DOT did make efforts to push back the snow since the storm of January 12th and 13th. So there is a copy that's there, and I would expect that in the future, they'll be diligent, but they're under the same situation that we are, where January was a number of storm after storm, and there really wasn't that much time to push things back, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
There was some equipment out on the road for a couple of days that I thought some of it was town equipment. Was there a water main problem out there, or were we just cleaning storm drains?
No, we'd be cleaning storm drains.
This one?
Was it by Best Gas?
What?
Was it by Best Gas?
Right at 62?
Yeah,
That was one.
water main break. You lost your voice?
He just doesn't want to oppose himself.
Oh, okay.
Next is the RFP for private ambulance service. I did meet with the fire chief about the RFP, and we will have it substantially completed to the board for your next meeting. There are a number of questions that we're working on. We'll work through those issues and come to the board with a proposal. I'll seek your input before the RFP gets finalized and we get issued on it, but I do want to give you an update, because one of the things that I talked about that Michael will review a week ago. And then the last subject was that the board had asked me to report on the status of the police department budget in view of potential cuts of $50,000 in overtime. Did speak with Chief Nolan. You have a copy of his recommendation in the packet. It's quite lengthy in terms of the memo, but the recommendation of the chief is that he recommends against reduction of overtime. He cites safety issues to the public and to police officers. The board asked me to go back and look at what we had available for funds in existing appropriations, and I've identified a couple of accounts that we should be able to utilize if we decide that we do not wish to reduce the budget by $50,000. That would be number one, $80,000 from the employee benefits account, and then the sum of $55,000 to be transferred from the property insurance account. The remaining balances would be transferred from overlay reserve. So it would be my recommendation, based upon the availability of funds, that we proceed with the warrant article, that, with the funding strategy, providing for $80,000 from the employee benefits account, $55,000 from the property insurance account, and the balance being taken from the overlay reserve going forward.
Discussion?
Sounds good to me.
I have a question. I read the chief's letter, and is the chief not here?
No, he's not here.
Is there a reason why he's not here?
I wasn't aware that he was specifically supposed to appear on the agenda.
Okay, that's
I can
fine.
ask any questions that
No,
you may have.
that's fine. I just,
I had, not to interrupt, Michael, but I had thought the same, that
Yeah,
we
I
would
did
see the
too.
chief,
Yeah.
not just get a 7-page memo from him today.
Right. You know,
He's part of management, I thought we could have a discussion with him, but I guess that's not going to happen this evening.
yeah, I think we should table it, because I really think that, I'd like the chief to be here to answer some of the things in his letter. They just stick out that just don't make any sense to me, and I'll just give you a little simple one. I've already notified Superintendent Willis that the North Reading Police Department responses to school will not be at the same level of effortness and efficiency as in the past. Has there been a budget cut or something that would force him to write that statement? And there's more in here like that.
Or is it in reference to the discussion we had of reducing the
No,
overtime budget for next year?
It's the resource officer, so that the resource officer position would not be utilized to the extent it has been utilized in the past.
no, he says he already notified her, the responses to the school will not be at the same level. So I assume that's for right now, like current. He already said he's gonna stop that level of effort.
Part of the challenge is I reported to the board a week ago, is the department budget was spending overtime at a disproportionate or at a higher rate than run rate than average. And as a result of that, there needed to be some steps made immediately to curtail overtime.
Yeah.
And those steps were implemented. Amongst those steps is one affecting the school resource officer position. The other one provides that there are certain shifts within the departmental structure that as it become vacant, those shifts would remain unfilled. And there are certain circumstances where when an officer is absent, for whatever reason, that there would be shifts that would not be filled during that period of time, and that's a way of curtailing the overtime costs.
These are all things I would like to have him here for.
Understand.
Yeah.
You know, instead of coming from you, I mean, he's in charge of the department. I think we
Yeah.
could have a discussion with him regarding this, and so we can
Yeah,
understand
I expected
it.
him to be here.
And what the
so,
impact is, all right?
If
What
you
the
read
impact
this
is
stuff,
on
you
the
could read
community,
into
what's
it.
the impact in on these guys sitting out here.
Yeah,
I want to know what the
it's
impact is.
important to them.
I'm surprised he's not here, once again.
Yeah.
And I see that his memo's dated the 11th. I don't know why we're just getting it. Today's the 15th. I think it came in sometime this afternoon. It's unfortunate. It's an important issue on this side of the table. It's an important issue for these guys sitting out here. And to get this in the afternoon at 7 pages without him being present, it's unfortunate to everyone involved.
Excuse me, you said this letter was dated the 11th,
The memo's dated the 11th.
and there's a description of something that happened on the 12th?
I didn't pick that up. Maybe there is. Maybe there's an error somewhere. I don't know.
Caught Monday morning on incident on the 12th,
Yeah, February 12th, 2011.
and the letter's written on the 11th.
Yeah, and
Maybe it's a work in
that,
progress.
no, that's just a simple, you know, I wouldn't read into it much, but the bottom line is, for me, because this is such a significant issue, that we should at least have our chief here to make sure we understand it and get this taken care of as soon as possible for these guys.
Getting back to sources of funding,
Yeah, see, to me,
Associate.
that's what the crux of the issue is. You know, we owe the members of the police department the money, and we're making good on it. It's just a question of what the source of revenue was going to be. To me, that was the crux of the matter. Again,
Yeah.
last week,
But we didn't need this. If that was the case, the town administrator, we didn't need this stuff.
Well, I think what happened last week, I mean, I stated categorically, I was not in favor of, cutting the overtime budget in just the police department in order to fund their own, needs. Because we had already backfilled funding for that particular department last year after we cut it for a brief period of time. And timing-wise, we've got about 4 months left, and to make up $50,000, I didn't think was gonna be economically feasible without having a significant adverse impact on the operation of the department. So look for some other sources of
and
funding.
your point was,
Right.
your point was well taken.
Right, and so they've
However-
identified other sources, which I
However-
think are reasonable, so.
However, Steve,
Yep.
as we go into 2012, we know that we have